What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Oleksandr Usyk. Oleksandr Usyk and his take on the Russian invasion. The Ukrainian approaches the world heavyweight champion and talks about the devastation of war and searches for signs of hope. He said, "There had been laughter in the gym. When I got there, only darkness and death." He said the walls were shaking and the dogs were hiding, Usyk says. Quietly, a few hours after the wave of Russian bombs hit Kiev on a midwinter morning, the world heavyweight champion is hard at work in his training camp outside the capital as he prepares for his planned unification bout with Tyson Fury in the coming months. But the greedy machinations or machinations, I never heard of that word ever, of boxing matter little when set against the war in Ukraine. Usyk, who looks lean and fit as he tugs thoughtfully at his close-cropped beard, wears a pristine white t-shirt. A beautiful black and white photograph of Muhammad Ali is printed on the front. The old promise of float like a butterfly ripples below the photo, and Usyk grins while Ali dances across my Zoom screen. A friend gave him a t-shirt for his 36th birthday on the January of 17th, but a Ukraine flag signed with messages for the champion by the soldier on the front line. He said, "I am outside Kiev, but my wife and my kids felt the attacks this morning." He says of the heavy shelling, "But thank God everything is fine with the family." Usyk used to be a joker playing pranks in the gym and peppering interviews with kips, but now carries the gravity of a country under siege. He leans forward, his head almost touching the screen, when I suggest it must be hard being away from his family when Kiev is bombarded again. He said, "It's not that difficult," he says calmly. "The anxiety starts, but people are prepared. They're all thinking. The dogs launched bombs or started shooting at us again. They are used to it, so our people live with it. They go down into the bomb shelters where they can be safe." Usyk still feels the devastation of war acutely, for this month marks the first anniversary of Russia's invasion, and the first people of Irpin, just outside of Kiev, suffered most or more than most. Irpin was hit hard by bombs before Russian soldiers briefly took control of the ground in a strategic plan to surround Kiev. The Battle of Irpin lasted until 28th of March. Ukrainian forces repelled the Russians and reclaimed the city in an early sign of the great resistance that the country would show. Usyk, of course, launched the program by making the donation of $205,000 with $333,000 needed to restore the first home belonging to Diana Savanok's family. And the government initial United 24, if you guys know, is the name of that. And let me counterpunch. I think people forget that Oleksandr Usyk is from a war-torn country right now. And everything that I've read just really brought back everything that went down, all the doubts. And I will say this. The Oleksandr Usyk that fought Anthony Joshua in 2021 was not the same Oleksandr Usyk that fought Anthony Joshua in 2022. I do believe that the war affected him. Now, was it for the good or was it for the bad? I really don't know. I think he was more patriotic in the second fight. I don't think he was in as good a shape as he was in the second fight. I think he was in enough shape to beat Anthony Joshua, but I don't think that he was in the same shape that he was in the first fight. I think the first fight he was quicker, he was stronger. I think his punch placement was better. His footwork was a lot better. I think, the second fight he looked more fatigued. He looked a little bit more sloppy. His punches were more looping versus, in the first fight, his punches, he threw punches with disregard of where they landed because of where his foot placement was. But they just looked sharper and more crisp to me in the first fight. And I think the war was because of it. And it did answer my question about Usyk. Was Usyk strong enough to withstand or to beat Anthony Joshua still with the war in his back mind? Okay. Now, I want to bring up what they said before, that, what was that crazy word that I read? But the greedy machinations of boxing matter little when set against the war in Ukraine. So basically saying the war in Ukraine is a lot more important than that boxing match. However, the boxing match is jailed in with the war simply because of where he's from, what he does. Max Schmeling wasn't a Nazi, but I'd be damned if he didn't knock out Joe Louis and the Nazis celebrated. Yeah. So it's all intertwined, because when Max Schmeling made Joe Louis fall, everyone celebrated from that country that declared war on the world. Okay? So keep that in mind. So if Oleksandr Usyk, him winning, yes, Ukraine, that gave them hope, that gave them confidence that, look, we still have a champion, we have a world champion, and, it makes them fight harder and everything. Everything is connected, and with Usyk and everything else, Usyk should still be remembered and recognized as also a soldier and a fighter. What's going on in his country versus what he's doing in training camp, they're all as one. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Oleksandr Usyk reminiscing on almost a year of war from Russia. Of course, please subscribe, and you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.